Welcome back to Fantasy Bankroll. I'm your host, Robert Banker. And before we get into the Week 4 Sunday games, let's take a look at the BB list and see who I'm high on and who I'm low on. First, let's get started with those players I'm targeting on the bullish list. Let's go. The first player on my bullish list this week, Green Bay Packers quarterback Jordan Love. Now, the Cowboys have given up the most passing yards, fantasy points, and second most passing touchdowns to the quarterback position through the first 3 weeks. And coming off that rough loss to the Browns, I expect the Packers and Love to be motivated. The next player on my bullish list this week, Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. Already off to a hot start this season, completing almost 70% of his passes, with 5 touchdowns and nada for picks. Allen gets a Saints team that's given up 7 passing touchdowns, second worst in the league through 3 weeks. The next player on my bullish list this week, Los Angeles Chargers running back Omarion Hampton. With Najee Harris hurt, it's now fully on the Omarion Hampton show. And this week he gets to go against a Giants defense that's given up the second most rushing yards and 5th most fantasy points to the running back position through the first 3 weeks. The next player on my bullish list this week, Denver Broncos running back J.K. Dobbins. Now the Bengals are giving up the second most fantasy points to the running back position, and they're coming off a game in which they gave up 116 yards and 2 touchdowns to Minnesota Vikings running back Jordan Mason. And I'd expect the Broncos to control the game flow by feeding Dobbins early and often. The next player on my bullish list this week, Carolina Panthers wide receiver Teteroa McMillan. Now, the Patriots are bottom 5 in yards allowed, and they've given up the 4th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position through 3 weeks. And McMillan is clearly the top target for quarterback Bryce Young, and I think this is the week he finds the end zone for the first time. The next player on my bullish list this week, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Now, the Steelers have given up the 7th most passing yards, 6th most passing plays over 20 yards, and 5th highest yards per reception through 3 games this season. And I think the Vikings and Jettas will look to put on a show in Dublin this week. Could we even see an Irish gritty? The next player on my bullish list this week, New England Patriots tight end Hunter Henry. Now, the Panthers are giving up the 8th most fantasy points to the tight end position this week, and coming off his big week 3 in which he had 2 receiving touchdowns, I expect May to keep looking Henry's way often in week 4. The last player on my bullish list this week, Dallas Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson. Now, while the Packers D has been one of the best overall in regards to yards allowed on the season, they've been bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. And Ferguson currently leads all tight ends in 10.7 targets per game. And with CeeDee Lamb out this week, I fully expect Ferguson to see a healthy target share. Alright, that'll do it for the Week 4 Fantasy Bankroll Bullish list. Make sure you check out that bearish list on the players I'm avoiding this week. Let's go!